G'day chaps, it's I, Clumpbutcher139. I love Deadpool. He's the host of two of my favorite superhero movies of all time, and a pretty damn fun game on top of that. And it's that game that I'll be playing in today's challenge. Deadpool is all about running around increasingly convoluted levels as the Merc with a Mouth. Throughout these levels you'll encounter a wide variety of enemies ripe for your blades and bullets. But unfortunately, unlike Deadpool, I'm American, so I never learned how to use anything but guns in the art of battle. Disclaimer, Clown Puncher has never shot a gun, let alone held one because he's a massive wimp. And with that, I ask, can you beat Deadpool using only guns? The rules are as simple as can be. In the many combat encounters of Deadpool the game, I am only allowed to defeat enemies using Wade's wide variety of firearms. Guns are pretty overpowered in Deadpool. Most will essentially one-shot enemies, and they have an auto-lock system, meaning you'll pretty much never miss your target. However, the big drawback to this is the lack of stealth and low ammo count, hence the multiple melee options. So just to make this challenge a little more interesting, I will also be banning any throwables from my arsenal to make sure that this is truly the American run. By the way, my original intent was to do a melee-only run with how busted guns are in this game, but someone already did it and I won't be stealing their thunder. This is the next best thing, which I'm pretty sure is what everyone says about Deadpool when he's selected for missions. So, let's get right into it. Side note, I streamed this whole challenge right here on YouTube, so if you'd like some behind the scenes looks at some of my future challenge runs, be sure to tune in. Anyway, let's get started. But, yeah, I'll go ahead and switch over to gameplay. I hope that the music isn't too loud. I turned it down a bit, so fingers crossed that it doesn't blow out my and your eardrums.
Just wondering, you got any girls in there?
Perfect timing. Except before we can actually go about shooting anything, I am obligated to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Under Lucky Stars. The night sky is something we all love gazing up into, but have you ever wondered what it looked like in the past? Some special moment in time that you couldn't get a picture of? Well, that's where Under Lucky Stars comes in. They create star maps of moments in time that are special to you. It could be the day you were born, or an anniversary for your special someone, or something in between. As long as you consider it a special day, Under Lucky Stars will get a snapshot of the night sky at that place and time and send it to you. It makes a fantastic gift for those aforementioned special occasions that your loved ones will absolutely adore. And your map is well and truly your own, with tons of customizable features you're sure to love. All their maps are NASA certified and even ship globally, so you won't be alienated no matter where in the world you're watching this video. If any of those quick facts even slightly piqued your interest and you want to pick one of these maps up for yourself, you can follow my link in the description or pinned comment to get 10% off your order and help support my channel. Thanks to Under Lucky Stars for sponsoring. Now, hopefully Deadpool will finally stop staring at me with murderous intent while I finally get to his challenge. Please don't hurt me. Now, before you all ask, I'm playing on normal difficulty because I like being able to record in a timely manner. But I did wipe my save clean so I would start with no upgrades and have to get everything from scratch. Like any good game, we naturally start in Deadpool's apartment and are told to dick around for a few minutes while we wait for the script to arrive. Since I just started Scream and didn't want to be instantly demonetized, I did the safest ones, then answered the door immediately. Since Deadpool himself has forgotten how to play, we have to make it through a tutorial. A tutorial that includes learning how to use our melee weapons and defeating enemies. As it turns out though, you don't even have to use the intended mechanics at all. You can just shoot all the enemies that spawn until the game allows you to progress. But therein lies the potential problem. Ammo. If you just shoot willy-nilly like I did, you're gonna run out of ammo pretty quickly. Instead, you have to take your time and specifically headshot enemies. Headshots against these early guys are insta-kills, and the game will only spawn so many before forcing you to move on. It actually doesn't care how you kill these guys as long as they're dead, so taking a bit of time to headshot them will leave you with just enough ammo to move forward, made especially easy by the fact that these guys don't even move. Unfortunately, your victory will be short-lived because the next tutorial is on countering. No matter how many of these guys you kill, more will keep spawning because the game simply needs you to use the counter move on them so it knows you learned it. Unfortunately, there's no way around this, and you must counter at least 2 of these enemies to move on. Thankfully though, that's all we need for the tutorial. The rest of the sewers only contains a single enemy, which is disposed of with a stealth takedown, which can thankfully be triggered with guns in this game, although it does immediately take you out of stealth and attract all enemies to you, so we won't be sneaking too much in this game. A little bit of platforming brings us to the building we'll be scaling for the rest of the level. Thankfully, after exiting the sewers, we get a full ammo refill and can constantly unload our clips into these faceless henchmen. Doubly thankfully, this level is incredibly generous with ammo drops, so I was never short on things to shoot. I was thinking the opposite would be the case, where we'd pretty much never have any ammo, but it turns out you pretty much get drops every few kills, making this level a complete breeze. Well, except for the fact that we need to trigger a momentum attack right here, as we're completely locked out of our controls until we do so. And that momentum happens to use Deadpool's swords. Yeah, that happened, but I didn't really care and moved on to a real shootout. This shows how we're going to be playing the game for a while. We aren't allowed to teleport because doing so activates the counter attack, so instead we just have to run in circles and jump to get away from the danger sticks. Or just walk backwards as they slowly walk right into your crosshairs and die painful deaths. Either one works. The rest of the level played out with this in mind. There were a few times I ran low on ammo, but there was always an ammo drop somewhere nearby that allowed me to refill. The helicopter on the roof was a nice change of pace, as I just got to hold down the trigger and let loose. And since this section lets you rack up such a large and completely free combo, you are left with so many upgrade points free for the spending. With them, I bought both the shotguns and SMGs, which I would absolutely be needing soon since we're about to face our first boss. This guy here takes so much damage that we really need the extra firepower just to put a dent in his health bar. While he does get me pretty close to death, I am still able to take him down, and gain access to the solution. A beautiful weapon that we get to use for a grand total of 30 seconds to take down a different rocket guy. It works, but I'm a little sad we can't use it for longer. Rest in peace, solution. You will be missed. But that completes the level and lets us move back into the sewers. Unfortunately, only a few minutes into this level, we're forced into a budget cut section, which means we're not allowed to use guns because guns mean money. And money happens to be something that High Moon doesn't really have. We're forced to kill this skeleton here to open the gate forward, and the only way we can do that is with our swords. But that's not all, because we also have to kill these 3 follow-up skeletons to spawn in a chest that gives us the key. And that's still not all, because we have to kill 2 more in the next room to let us move a box to reach the end of the area. That's a lot of melee uses to add to our count. But if Deadpool isn't keeping track of his budget, I don't need to keep track of how much I swing a sword. We all knew this challenge was impossible, but we didn't really care. We just want to see Deadpool shoot the hell out of faceless goons for 4 hours, am I right? Yeah! So cue that sewer level montage because there's really nothing to talk about for a while. After the montage, we have to fight Arclight, but that fight is so easily exploitable with the shotguns that I don't really want to talk about it. Resume the montage! Sorry to cut it off, there's a tiny piece of difficulty right after the fight where we have to take out these enemies guarding Vertigo, and I was super low on ammo after the Arclight fight, so I had to scrounge some up in the level itself before being able to take them all out. Okay, now, once more onto the montage! Level complete! Yay!
Oh, Wolvie, time to wake up. Rise and shine, Stubby. Wake up. Up and at 'em. Fine, then. That's for all the clown jokes. That's for never calling just to say hi. That's because I get aroused when I slap people. That's for all the furry midgets in the world. That's because I feel like it. Why won't you Wake up! Wake up! That's because the player keeps mashing the button. That's because I like slapping fleshy things with this hand. That's for being in more comics than me. That's for making me love you. That's for making me hate you. That's for never taking us to the prom. That's for always working late. That's for being short. That's for stabbing me in the heart. Literally. That's for never letting me fly the Blackbird except when I crashed it. That's for being the worst wingman in bromance history. That's because I want to see if the player will keep doing this. That's for all the hot gamer girls out there. Hey, call me. That's for being a total douche. That's for never washing the dishes. That's for last year's white elephant gift. Who wants a white elephant? And finally, that's because the whole setup just added 5 minutes of bonus play to the most awesome game ever devised by mutant or man. I guess he's not waking up.
Curious.
That was fun. Time for something difficult again. Huzzah! We're now introduced to Earthquakers, which take so much damage it's not even funny. On the plus side, we can actually teleport against them since they don't have any counterattacks. But on the downside, we go through our entire ammo reserve fighting them at the moment. Thankfully, I had plenty of reserves and pickups, so they weren't that difficult to deal with. Defeating him and all the other slackers gave me enough money to purchase the final weapon of the run, the pulse rifles, which make short work of the upcoming enemies. We're then granted the sweet release of death through, thankfully, not a melee weapon. With our newly upgraded arsenal, nobody in our path stood even a sliver of a chance. Until the game decided I needed to counter these guys instead of teleporting away, forcing me to restart from a checkpoint. Fun. Aside from that, it's just a whole lot of shooting and scrounging for bullets against some pretty tough enemies, including another 2 tubbies who took basically all of my ammo. But as you'd expect, I was able to take them all down, and most of the rest of the level was just parkour. There was one kinda tough part with these defense boosting guys, since there were 2 that boosted each other, meaning I couldn't find a way to separate them before I could shoot them down. It took a while, but I eventually got it and could shoot the rest down. After squeezing Cable's armor a bit too hard, we're forced into a giant shootout, and are woefully under-equipped. I'm quite low on ammo, so I have to mostly rely on my pistols for the fight. It mostly worked until phase 2 when Cable jumps in to help, because despite the assistance, it gets much harder. There's flying guys, multiple brutes, and it's just an overall bad time. I died multiple times if you couldn't guess. And when I finally finished them all, I was quite relieved. Time to climb the tower and finish Sinister once and for all. Thankfully, when we reach the top, we don't have to worry about stabbing him and can just spam buttons until the game decides we had enough fun and kills him without input. That completes that level. Time to gather parts for Plan Awesome, aka Plan Fuck Around and Find Out. Cable needs us to find parts, so most of this level is platforming and puzzles. Not too much to say, so montage time again! Thankfully, when the boot decides to take off, we're left with a turret to defend ourselves, and that turret just so happens to be a gun, which is perfect for the challenge. After that, the level is once again complete, Rogue gets kidnapped, and Deadpool's head is on backwards. More fun. We are once again swarmed with upgrade points, which I use to buy the gun kata upgrades for each of my weapons. Not only does this give us a momentum bar for each of them, but allows us to finally use the counter mechanic, assuming we have the guns out, of course. Couldn't tell you how many times I still used the swords just because it felt like it though. But at this point, we are so overpowered that we can even kill guys with our dick out and not have to worry about it. You know what that means? Cover your ears. Montage time! Yeah, the game's basically becoming a cakewalk at this point because we have so much ammo saved up and have such powerful weapons, we can break through whatever defenses they might have built up. Even this little horde battle in the showers is nothing compared to the power of a lovely shotgun. Especially when countering with your guns doesn't expend any ammo, meaning you can do it infinitely. We're frankly overpowered at this point in the quote-unquote challenge, and contrary to what this setup might entail, that was not about to change. This whole level is a power trip from start to finish, and then it finally comes time to save Rogue. But before we can do that, we have to try taking down Sinister once again. Only this time we have to do it stealthily. In case you missed the 2 lines at the beginning of the video explaining stealth, allow me to remind you. The sewers only contains a single enemy, which is disposed of with a stealth takedown, which can thankfully be triggered with guns in this game, although it does immediately take you out of stealth and attract all enemies to you, so we won't be sneaking too much in this game. Yeah, you can't use guns to stealth without getting caught, and this is the one part of the game where stealth isn't optional. But as it turns out, that point is completely irrelevant. I tried a good number of times to get through this area without killing anybody, but I would always end up getting caught. I thought I was making progress, but the game felt otherwise. Instead of leaving me to my own demise and constantly bashing my head against a wall, the game just let me pass. Deadpool got so tired of me constantly failing and just moved me past the checkpoint, right behind Mr. Sinister because he was annoyed. Thank you so much, Deadpool. You saved me a lot of headache and gave me a good laugh. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said of when we're trying to kill the imposter Sinister. No matter how long I tried to avoid it, Deadpool eventually got the better of me and killed Sinister with his sword, once again breaking the challenge. But I mean, does it really count if I didn't swing the sword? Well, since I initiated the button press that made Deadpool stab the guy, yeah, I think it does. And just you wait, dear viewer, we're not done with sword swinging just yet. Because now we have to fight Blockbuster, and... Okay, well, you still take him down with guns, rather easily in fact, because as it turns out, shotguns are really powerful when they engage with someone's cranium. But after that easy boss, we're forced to rescue Rogue, and Rogue decides that she doesn't want to be American contrary to her accent, and doesn't want to use guns. Instead, we're forced to take on a massive wave of enemies with just the swords. No way around it, this run is beyond dead at this point, and unlike Deadpool, there's no way of reviving it. You take on something like 50 guys in this onslaught with just the swords, which is so incredibly difficult normally, but even more so when you haven't been playing with swords at all this run. In the end, I was able to get through it, but this section is why I didn't bother including a melee counter to begin with, because it would just be pointless. But beating the section allows us to finally take control of Deadpool again as we're sent way underground. And thankfully, this first section is easy. We just need to pull the lever to open the gate. This specific lever right here, because if I don't pull this lever, the gate won't be open, and I need the gate to be open to progress, so I must pull the lever. The lever over here that opens the gate. Before I can pull the lever to open the gate though, I'm stuck in a forced shooting section where I have to blow up a bunch of barrels to defeat waves of enemies. You can't even use melee in this section, so it's a total freebie. The rest of the area is just regular old shooting that we're used to, followed by riding a minecart, then even more shooting alongside Cable. Usual stuff that isn't too hard, especially when we have this backup. And now it's time to complete Death's Trials, which are almost exclusively weird minigames where we don't have to fight any enemies. We fight a few in the first one, including a contest winner and a weird mini-boss fight, but they're all super easy to take down. However, the green trial is by far the hardest. It starts with a really difficult section in the beginning with lots of enemies as you'd expect, except that most of them have buffs, so most enemies end up dealing or taking a lot more damage unless we get rid of the support guys fast. Thankfully I'm able to do so and can move on to... Mario game? You'd think there wouldn't be any enemies you have to kill in this section, but you'd be sorely mistaken. Much like the other budget cut sections, there are some skeletons we need to face with only our swords, and we're not allowed to use guns at all. But unlike the other sections, we don't necessarily need to kill any of these guys. This level is incredibly janky, and you can tell they kind of threw the whole thing together because this game is not meant to be played in 2D. If you just run around or even run into the enemies, they'll just push themselves out of bounds, killing them with a death barrier. You technically need to kill these skeletons to open the door, but if you just run around for a bit, they'll end up killing themselves, and you don't have to do a damn thing. It's honestly pretty funny just how janky this level is. And the jank doesn't stop there, as we have another quick boss fight against the keg machine, where you have to kick the kegs back as it removes the hearts. There's a couple skeletons that try to stop you, but you can just wait and dodge a bit and they'll get killed by the kegs easy peasy. A stupid level with a stupid solution. I love it. That's the level completed, so we can move on to the penultimate one of the game. By the time we reach the final levels of the game, I've got all my upgrades and can just go absolutely ham, especially in regards to the pistols. You can absolutely unload into the enemies and shred their health bars in seconds. Despite being the starting weapons, these things can pack a punch. Now, would all the ladies in the audience please direct your attention to the speed at which my ammo is depleted from this semi-automatic weapon? If you don't get it, you probably shouldn't be watching this video. If you do and are about to shame me, yes, I am incredibly lonely, how did you guess? While there are a few areas that are rather difficult thanks to buffing enemies, it's mostly the same old cakewalk we're used to. I can just breeze through it with some bullets and a dream. But now it's time for the final level in Magneto's Citadel. The final level of this game is incredibly difficult. It's honestly one of the toughest final levels from any game I've played. But not for a good reason. This whole final level is just enemy spam, with no rhyme or reason behind anything's placement. It's honestly one of the most poorly designed levels I've ever seen. But that doesn't mean I didn't have some fun. The level is difficult enough when you're playing this game normally, so restricting yourself to attacks with limited uses only makes it all the harder. The whole gist is that you are going to be constantly swarmed by enemies, so not only are you constantly going to be under attack, you're going to have to constantly be attacking every single angle. And if you're constantly attacking, you're constantly wasting ammo. Take a shot for every time I said constantly in the last minute. Thankfully, this level is incredibly generous and has infinitely respawning ammo drops placed all around the map. So if you're ever low, you just need to run to one of the drops and get yourself a refill. The biggest difficulty behind this level is the fact that dying usually sends you back incredibly far. Checkpoints are few and far between in this level. You could go upwards of 10 minutes straight fighting before getting to another checkpoint. And with both the number and power of these enemies constantly swarming you, yeah, you're gonna die a few times. Hell, I was on this final section, not even the whole level, just this final horde battle in the arena for over 30 whole minutes. It's that long. If you can make it through the enemy spam that is the first few waves, you'll make it to a boss rush against Blockbuster, Arclight, and Vertigo. Vertigo naturally makes the screen all dizzy again and poses no actual threat, while Blockbuster and Arclight make it their mission to make you hate living. Their attacks tend to combo into one another, making it very difficult for you to run away and escape to regain health. You should focus on Arclight first, since she can slow you down and make it so you can't teleport. Blockbuster is also far less threatening despite having more health, so he should be your last priority. The shotguns are your best friends here, as they'll mow through both of their health bars rather quickly, especially if you have the increased fire speed and can get off some headshots. If you can manage to get Arclight down, the rest of the fight is a cakewalk. Just dodge Blockbuster and obliterate his health bar with whatever weapon you happen to have ammo for. Be sure to pick off Vertigo with a single bullet, then get ready for your victory lap against Sinister. Sinister is far easier than all the waves we had before, because he can only attack when close up or do pitiful range damage with lasers that have absolutely no width to them. By this point, I also learned about the infinitely respawning ammo, so could constantly wail on him with whatever was in my arsenal. Combine that with dodging attacks to counter back for free, and this was the easiest final wave they could have thrown at me. Taking down all the Sinister clones just leaves a single button prompt to kill the real guy, with a crotch shot and a giant boot, winning the run. This was a surprisingly chill challenge. I mean, I knew guns were really overpowered in this game, but I didn't think they'd make it this much of a cakewalk. If you want to make your Deadpool experience easier, go ahead and try this quote-unquote challenge for yourself. Maybe try it on a harder difficulty, because seriously, this thing was the easiest challenge I've ever done. Though after my shenanigans playing I Am the Knight last week, this was a much needed change of pace. With that said, do all the YouTube stuff because it's what Deadpool would want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later, chaps.